As this broadcast progresses, one question remains especially important for the intellectuals of the Southern Cameroons. That is why I look at this segment of our discussion as a core message to the Southern Cameroons intelligentsia. And before we get into that, I'd like us to listen to Mo Ibrahim. Mo Ibrahim is an African billionaire who, way back in 2016, when the Southern Cameroons lawyers, we'll call them common law lawyers, and the teachers, and of course, the rest of the community just started agitating the Southern Cameroons and saying this whole nonsense of, living together, or this incest, or this, unfortunate relationship with the Republic of Cameroon is not serving the interests of the people of the Southern Cameroons. Mo Ibrahim, right at that time, made this very quick and important remark. Listen.
To come back to the one state is impossible because it doesn't work. We've seen it in Yugoslavia, we see today in Cameroon. You can't put people who are so hostile to each other in one state. So the only solution is the two-state, even if it's not working, but at least you can say it's containment for the West to have that solution, even if it doesn't work. To come back to the one.
So you heard that. He was very unmitigating. He did not mince words. He didn't need a soothsayer to come down to tell him what the solution to what was going on would be, what the lasting solution, a sustainable solution to what's going on between the people of the Southern Cameroons and those of the Republic of Cameroon would be. He made clear on the BBC that the only solution is a two-state solution in what's going on between the two Cameroons, between the Republic of Cameroon and the Southern Cameroons. That the only solution is a two-state solution. Why Mo Ibrahim? Why this gentleman took time to say this, way back in 2016. The intellectual class of the Southern Cameroons operated rather in a way that could make you think that they rather would have wanted this gentleman to be placed in a public place and stoned to death, regardless of one's preferred political solution, whether a return to federalism, enhanced autonomy, or absolute independence. The future of any society depends on the freedom of its thinkers. Universities, research institutes, professional associations, and independent scholars flourish when ideas can compete openly, when appointments reward merit, and when intellectual inquiry is guided by evidence rather than political expediency. Political expediency. When intellectual inquiry is guided by evidence rather than political expediency. That's why you will find people go on television platform and they open their mouths and you feel like vomiting. Because just hear this one for a start.
President Paul Biya is a blessing to this country. Cameroonians, we are lucky. We are made because we have Paul Biya, the helm of the statecraft. This president is our greatest marksman. He is our principal goal scorer. He has always taken us out of very difficult situations. First, because of his immense wisdom. Second, because of his aura and international clout. Those who meet President Paul Biya for the first time are out and bow in reverence, in respect for his profound knowledge. President Paul Biya is a blessing to.
Let's stop there. The one that I just spoken there is called Dr. Ashunyenti. He's a broadcast journalist in Cameroon. Dr. Ashunyenti. If you ask him, the President Paul Biya is a blessing. It's on everything. When you ask him, can you explain this? What do you point to in explaining this? The only reason this is done, political expediency. Because the position he currently holds was held by someone who, for singing praises too very well, ended up being appointed technical advisor at the presidency. Free thought is dead, not by coercion, no, but simply by patronage and political clientelism. Don't think that you have seen anything yet until you watch this one.
Very good report card from nursery school to university, but jobless. Where am I heading to? So we want to tell Cameroonians, gather those report cards and bring. Probably I will give him. Go and give your President Paul Biya. Either we have good report cards with job, or we take your report cards back and allow us jobless and know that we have nowhere to go. But God created this nation, gave us life, but wickedness has placed us under darkness. Okay. And that's why deliverance will even start here with people like Prof. Okay. First, stop defending evil. Okay. So very good report card from nursery school to university, but jobless. Where am I heading to? So we want to tell Cameroonians, gather those report cards and bring. Probably I will give him. Go and give your President Paul Biya. Either we have good report cards with job, or we take your report cards back and allow us jobless and know that we have nowhere to go. But God created this nation, gave us life, but wickedness has placed us under darkness. Okay. And that's why deliverance will even start here with people like Prof. Okay. First, stop defending evil. Okay. So very good.
So did you see that? This gentleman talking is himself a doctor. The person he's accusing is Professor Elvis Ngolengole. And hear what he's telling him. Stop defending evil. Why is he telling him that? Because you sit down and you are all seeing the society is decaying. The community is burning. People are being slaughtered like animals. Over 400 village communities have been reduced to ashes. But somebody sits on a set and is saying that Paul Biya is an apostle of peace. Somebody sits on a television set and is saying that Paul Biya, in fact, the greatest thing he has brought to the country is peace. When the country is tearing apart. This is what it is. And this gentleman too, doctor, who was chastising Professor Elvis Ngolengole, ended up being caught up. If you listen to him today, this vitriol is gone. If you listen to him today, he now tells you he's even sorry that he spoke with a free mind. Because in a country like that one, where you have to take care of hunger issues, where the problems of butter and bread are more important than the advancement of the community, you cannot afford to think freely. That's why I say many Southern Cameroonian scholars, professionals, and civil society actors argue that the Southern Cameroon's future should include institutions capable of protecting academic freedom, rewarding excellence, and encouraging innovation. They contend that only in an environment where intellectuals can question authority without fear, fully contribute to the development of their society. This is what is being said. That it is only in an environment where intellectuals can question authority without fear, conduct research independently, and participate freely in public debate can they fully contribute to the development of their society. You recall that there was a time that people were captured, people were kidnapped all over the Southern Cameroons and shipped to Yaoundé, and they are still rotting in jails until today. What were they accused of? Of propagating federalist ideologies. Just for talking about the form of the state. For propagating federalist ideology. This only became decriminalized. Talks about federalism only became decriminalized when Laurent Esso, the Minister of Justice, keeper of the seals of La République du Cameroon, traveled around Europe to visit the diaspora and returned and sent a report to the presidency of the Republic, to Paul Biya, of course, a copy of which I obtained. I had made a lot of noise about that particular report, in which he said they should decriminalize talk of federalism for one reason, not because the government wants to return to a federal system, but simply because it will allow those who identify as federalists to be free to attack those who are pro-independence. And in that way, La République du Cameroon will stand by and watch the children of the Southern Cameroons tear themselves apart and then weaken their own liberation movement. That is the only reason. Nothing more. So whether that future, the future of the Southern Cameroons, is pursued through constitutional reform, greater autonomy, or self-determination remains a subject of profound political disagreement. But the underlying aspiration expressed by many in the Southern Cameroons, by a huge majority of Southern Cameroonians, is the same: a society in which knowledge, rather than political patronage, becomes the principal engine of progress. In this regard, many Southern Cameroonians maintain that only one constitutional arrangement can fully guarantee a society in which the intelligentsia is free to think, innovate, and lead without political patronage, and that is absolute independence of the Southern Cameroons. That one, at least 95% of the people of the Southern Cameroons agree on. They point to consultations reportedly conducted, of course, that were conducted at the behest of the late Christian Cardinal Toomey, during which, of course, according to widely cited accounts and the report that he presented himself on camera, about 69% of respondents within the Southern Cameroons favored absolute independence. Do not forget, the only people consulted were people on the territory. Those in the diaspora were not included. For many, those findings continue to symbolize a deeply held aspiration for self-determination and the institutional renewal. The reason is simple. When this happens, it will free even our intellectual class. History repeatedly demonstrates that nations rise not merely because of abundant natural resources, but because they cultivate independent minds capable of generating new ideas, challenging old assumptions, and imagining better institutions. The enduring challenge for the Southern Cameroons is how to build conditions in which intellectual life can flourish, academic merit is respected, and future generations are encouraged to lead through scholarship, innovation, and the public service rather than through dependence on political favoritism. A society where we will not witness aberrations like the one I'm about to let you watch. Because what you're about to watch is what you call an academic aberration. Watch.
That by the grace of God we've attained the achievement of education, being the first full professor in our subdivision. It's a wonderful blessing. But this can only go a long way to express thanks to the head of state, President Paul Biya, His Excellency Paul Biya, for giving us the opportunity to go to school free. Education in Cameroon is absolutely free. For supporting us, giving us all the possibilities to change it and get to this level. And as the fund said, we use this opportunity to tell him he should live long, and the entire WhatsApp division, Donga Mantung as usual, we are behind him, and that we plead on him to stand as the next presidential election is coming and ventilate and venerate himself as always as a natural leader for Cameroon. Thank you very much.
You heard a few things there. Natural leader. You heard a few horrible things there. Professor Mfunte Makbolak is a personal friend. We live together in the same municipality in Yaoundé. I had a singular opportunity to share with him in Maroua when I was appointed or rather transferred to work as CRTV Maroua. I had the opportunity to share a lot of academic knowledge with him, including our desire to constantly explore more grounds for knowledge through international conferences. It was at his behest and through his impulsion that I attended the Africa Media and Democracy Conference in Accra, Ghana, where I had the opportunity, to meet professionals and scholars from across Africa. This is a gentleman who ate Gary and granuts, who struggled. We struggled together living at Liberty Palace, just above Bonamosa in Yaoundé, to become what he finally became. Credit is not given here perhaps to the poor parents who were struggling to see him through. And he's not taking credit for the effort he put in to rise up to this position. Credit is given to President Paul Biya that supposedly made it possible for my dear friend, who is an intelligent fellow. He is. I'm not throwing him flowers. He is an intelligent fellow to become professor. And this is where I'm talking about when I'm referring to the thingification of the intelligentsia. I see we have to thank the president of the. Why thank? Because you're hoping now that I'm an associate professor or now that I'm professor, I need an appointment. And that appointment can only come by praising Paul Biya. Not because you're going to sit anywhere to start contributing those ideas to impulse the advancement of the community. No. You have to pour this in all to throw flowers on Paul Biya. This is definitely not what the late venerated Professor Bernard Nsokika Fonlon was thinking about when he wrote his book, The Genuine Intellectual. This is definitely not what he was thinking about. This is not what was going through his mind. Because this is what I call an aberration. I end up saying, oh, we are all behind the head of state. How did you manage to get to Nwa? If you see the road heading to Nwa, my goodness, you will wonder what he's talking about. I wonder if the people who have electricity. I wonder if they even have good medical facilities. I wonder. And while Mark Bolak, my dear friend, was saying all of these things, his brothers and sisters were being slaughtered like animals. It was just around the same time that Sam Sawyer was skinned alive on motion television. This is not the role we expect the Southern Cameroons intelligentsia to play. And you will find another one here. This is Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, Prime Minister, Head of Government for the Republic du Cameroon. At least that is the title that he has. And we know that intellectuals recognize one thing. That you are at least humble enough. If you can't tell the people the plain truth, once you are disproved, you at least are humble enough to come and say, I erred. Hear him.
I've heard people say that, they are going to create a refinery in Libya. It's not true. Technically, it's not possible. 80% of the fuel that will be refined in Sonara, because now Sonara before, it was built by Total, a French concern. And Total built it in such a way that Sonara was importing sweet crude from Nigeria and refining. Sonara could not refine a liter of Cameroonian crude. You all know that. But this time they are going to reduce Sonara in such a way that the primary objective will be to refine Cameroonian crude. And anybody who tells you that it is going to be done in Kribi is lying, because 80% of the crude comes from the backwaters of Ako and Dian. The transport cost will be enormous if you have to take it to Kribi. So technically, it is not possible. But you have people who are distorting things and giving you the impression that, oh, Sonara is finished, it's only in Kribi that they will make a crude. It is not true. I've heard people say that, oh, they are going to create a refinery in Kribi. It's not true. Technically, it's not possible. 80%.
So did you hear? Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, when he made these declarations, said it's technically not even possible that they will construct an ultra-modern refinery in Kribi, effectively killing Sonara in Limbe, and then we'll have to transport the crude oil, 80% of which is drilled from the backwaters of Fako and Dian. He hails from Dian. And then that the cost of transportation by pipeline all the way to Kribi for refining will be so unbearable. And he said all of those things were lies. No refinery was going to be constructed in Kribi. Less than 2 months after this statement, less than 2 months after he made this statement, Dr. Joseph John Gute, La République du Cameroun, was announcing the laying of the foundation stone for the construction of an ultra-modern refinery in Kribi. And Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute's son, who was working at the SNH, was one of the officials piloting that project in Kribi. They were not just doing that, they were also constructing an ultra-modern hydrocarbons product storage facility in Kribi. I mean, less than 1 month and a half. Did Joseph John Gute ever find time to tell the people of the Southern Cameroons I misled you? This is exactly what we are talking about. When the intellectual class are reduced to non-starters, are thinnified, reduced to parrots, and are being ridiculed on a daily basis, what do you expect from such a society? And I said earlier that this is not the kind of atmosphere that the late venerated Professor Bernard Nsokika Fonlon, these are not the kind of things he foresaw when he wrote the book, The Genuine Intellectual. So let's look at what message Professor Bernard Nsokika Fonlon has for the Southern Cameroons intelligentsia all the way from his grave in Southland. In his seminal 1978 work, The Genuine Intellectual, Bernard Nsokika Fonlon argues that a genuine intellectual is not merely a university graduate or a certificate holder, but a holistic citizen who fuses high scientific intellect with profound moral and social responsibility. Ashunyenti, did you hear that? Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, did you also hear that? Did you? And to all of those, the Callistus, Fulgentries, and all the others, who are doctors, professors, and all of those things. Professor Ufe Chinjemelo, did you hear that? Often referred to as the Cameroonian Socrates, Fonlon wrote this book as a philosophical guide for African university students. He wasn't even thinking of Southern Cameroons. He wanted to transform them into critical thinkers who could build post-colonial African societies rather than becoming self-serving elites. Because all the bunch that we have called today our intellectual class are self-serving elites. Recently, I watched a segment in which Professor Bernard Nsokika was being interviewed, and of course I was amazed that he stayed on the facts. To be honest, at some point I even feared for him, and I'm going to bring that cut on this platform one of those days. Fonlon's concept of the genuine intellectual is built upon several core pillars. First, the tripartite integration that is scientific, moral, and spiritual. So he argues that university education is completely useless if it only teaches technical skills. To him, a genuine intellectual must approach the world through 3 integrated dimensions. Number 1, which is scientific, mastering the scientific method, data collection, and rigorous logical inquiry to find ultimate objective truth. Again, we are on truth. The moral part, because it's very important, you need the moral compass. Practicing strict moral restraint, ethical decision making, and deep humaneness. Deep humaneness. Look at the Southern Cameroons intellectual class today. When you talk of humaneness, they are all silent, even as we speak. While a certain city mayor in Yaoundé is threatening hundreds of Southern Cameroons refugees in Vogbeti, they are all silent, they are all quiet, their lips are sealed. They are afraid to talk because talking might jeopardize the little sinecure positions they already hold and have access to illicit money. They are all frightened, terrified, because they are waiting for that eternal new government that is not coming. And making any statement at this time might, put them on the bad side, on the wrong side, and they may not be considered. They are silent. Where they are burning people alive in their homes, in Ikata, in Moyoka, they are silent. Where they are raping our children, our mothers, our wives, they are silent. Where they roasted, reduced over 400 village communities to ashes, they are silent. In situations where they are not silent, they justify the murderous action of an evil system. And he talks of the spiritual dimension. That's cultivating the human spirit and soul to ensure that knowledge serves a higher existential purpose. He also talks of the absolute freedom of the mind. So he's influenced heavily by John Henry Newman's the idea of a university. Fonlon stresses that a university must be a sacred space where the only authority is the mind and the only nobility is genius. Oh no. This is from another planet, no? Really from another planet. To expect this kind of things from some people, it will be madness. So he says a genuine intellectual must possess a fighting spirit to reject intellectual laziness and conformity. Universities must jealously protect academic freedom from political, economic, or government interference. If an institution falls or fails to teach a student how to think critically and in total freedom, it has taught them nothing of value. That is why when I listen to this, hear it with me.
It's not everybody out there that has the intellectual gravitas, the intellectual pedigree to be able to understand the salient contours of legal interpretation. It's not everybody out there that has the intellectual gravitas, the intellectual pedigree to be able to understand the salient contours of legal interpretation. It's not everybody out there that has the...
I let it play over and over so that I see someone, somewhere, would tell me that they understood anything from what Dr. Ashunienti is saying here. They are all struggling to defend the indefensible. They are all struggling to portray failure as success. They are all struggling to tell the people that they are not experiencing what they are experiencing. They are all struggling to tell the people that they are not in hell, they are in paradise. They are all struggling to tell the people that Cameroon is not suffering from massive unemployment, it's rather suffering from too much employment. It's painful sometimes to watch some of these things. That's why Professor Fonlon says says the central role, that he says philosophy plays a central role as the fundamental baselines for all fields of study. He believes philosophy disciplines and that philosophy will discipline and bend the mind in a way that standard technical courses cannot do. And to be very honest, I don't want to base my mind so much on some of those aspects of things that he said that were too academic. Let's look at what he says about the radical social responsibility and social abnegation of the intellectual class. Says a person does not earn the title of an intellectual simply by storing a massive encyclopedia of facts in their head. True intellect requires putting specialized knowledge directly to the service of the public commonwealth before considering personal gain. Fonlon calls for extreme self-abnegation, that is self-denial, sacrificing personal luxuries and wealth to act as the progressive mind and eye of the society. You are listening to me. You are watching me. You are a doctor. You are a professor of Southern Cameroon's extraction. Do you find your place in this definition of who an intellectual is? Perhaps you didn't hear me well. Professor Bernard Fonlon says, a person does not earn the title of an intellectual simply by storing a massive encyclopedia of facts in their head. He says true intellect requires putting specialized knowledge directly to the service of the public commonwealth before considering personal gain. This is what he says. And then the last part that he falls on is the suspicion of partisan politics. Because while Fonlon spent part of his life also as a high-ranking government minister in Cameroon, his book displays a deeply conflicted view of politics. He concludes that while some genuine intellectuals must step into the political arena to guide the nation, politics is inherently messy and corrupting. Therefore, he argues that society heavily relies on intellectual outsiders. Today, there is not a single intellectual in the Southern Cameroons who believes that they should be outside of the CPD and chopping arrangement. No. It relies on intellectual outsiders, independent scholars who remain completely free of partisan politics to speak the unbiased truth to power. Honestly speaking, in everything that I watched, that I screened when I was preparing this podcast, I ended up being able to hail just one man. One. Tambetiku, and this is why.
So that is a situation our youth are going through. Now, whether you're coming from Douala, from Yaoundé, they know in Boya, all the youths are criminal. That is what they know, that our children are all criminals. And the only way to get money from them is to take their phones. But I go to Yaoundé and Douala, I don't see these things happening. What have we done to deserve all of this? That our children should not move freely? Why is it only perpetrated in this part of the country? And yet we are talking of solving crisis, conflict. How do we end the conflict when every day injustice is perpetrated on the youth? So that is a situation our youth are going through. Now, whether you're coming from Douala, from Yaoundé, they know in Boya, all the youths are criminal. That is what they know.
So you see, Tambetiku is the only eye in that whole huge forest who had the courage, the effrontery, and the temerity to stand up and to tell the powers that be that the young people of the Southern Cameroons are having enough. To point out this evil that's been perpetrated on our people, that's been perpetrated on our young people. To decry the fate of our people and to say this injustice has lasted just too long and to call it by its name, that are being treated like this just for being Southern Cameroonians. Candidly, I believe that the take-home message from this broadcast is that the Southern Cameroons intellectuals, or the intelligentsia, who are also standing on the sidelines because they are afraid of being vilified by a system they are hoping to get benefits from. There are a lot of them abroad, a lot of them at home, who will not openly identify with a cause that will benefit everyone, including their children and their children's children and generations of Southern Cameroonians to come. You even call them. Can you come and say what? I'm afraid. They may stop me from going back home. My people have said that I should be careful, I should not talk. Because if I'm talking, I'll be putting them in harm's way because they are looking to benefit in certain things from the government. And this is where we are. The thingification of the intelligentsia has led us where we are. You see, even in La République du Cameroon, on the body politics of La République du Cameroon, the opposition is made up of basically those that you call the chaffs. You have a few intellectuals who have gone there to lead, but they can't have a following of other intellectuals like them because everyone is looking for a place in some obscure office where they can have access to illicit money. You have people of academic metal in the Southern Cameroons who will not open their mouth or their mouths to denounce the ills that happen in the Southern Cameroons because they are still sitting and hoping that someday they may benefit something from our being attached as slaves to La République du Cameroon. It is painful, it is vexing. And you see those of us who are sticking our necks and talking about these things every day as fools, as court jesters, as lost minds, who don't realize that the most important thing to do now is to be part of the chopping arrangement. It is painful, it is shameful, but unfortunately, that is the reality. That is the current worldview. So, folks, I want to thank all of you who spend time with me on the JMA Connections, watching this rather long broadcast. If this was your first time on the JMA Connections, please go right ahead and hit on that subscribe button and personalize so that anytime something new drops on this platform, you will be the first to know. And of course, do not forget to drop a like. And I'm waiting for your comments at the comment section. Don't insult any individual. Let's focus on the issues, be part of the conversation. And of course, do not forget to share the link to this communication. Share it as much as possible so that we'll continue to reach as many people as possible. And of course, I want to thank all of you for your very kind attention. And as usual, let's end it by saying, to God and to Him alone be all the glory. Bye.